33 years after Goodfellas redefined the mafia genre, the shadows of the past are finally coming to light. You've seen them rule the streets in 1990, but from tragic sudden deaths to stars who have become completely unrecognizable, their real-life fates will leave you speechless. Join us as we uncover where the legendary crew is now and the dark secrets Hollywood tried to hide. Robert De Niro as James Conway. Robert De Niro was born on August 17, 1943, in New York City. At 47 years old, he played James Conway, the icy mastermind whose ruthless decisions pushed the violence of Goodfellas to its darkest edge. His controlled menace made Conway one of the most unforgettable villains in gangster film history. But the calm, calculating persona on screen hid a life tangled in turbulent relationships. De Niro married actress Diane Abbott in 1976 and had a son, Raphael, while also adopting her daughter Drina. Their marriage collapsed in 1988, and years later he married Grace Hightower in 1997. What followed was a relationship that swung between reconciliation and conflict for 2 decades. Finally, the marriage was quietly unraveling behind the scenes. Their final split triggered a bitter legal battle where court documents revealed De Niro working relentlessly just to maintain massive financial obligations tied to the divorce. Then another shock arrived. In 2003, at the height of his fame, De Niro was diagnosed with prostate cancer. The diagnosis stunned fans who saw him as indestructible after decades of roles in films like Raging Bull and Casino. He underwent surgery at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York and survived. However, he continued working, refusing to step away from the industry that had defined his life. As of 2026, Robert De Niro is 83 years old and still active in film and business while living in New York. In 2023, he shocked the public again by welcoming his 7th child with martial arts instructor Tiffany Chen, becoming a father at 79. Beyond acting, he oversees the globally famous Nobu restaurant empire, a venture that helped build an estimated $500 million fortune. Ray Liotta as Henry Hill. Ray Liotta was born on December 18, 1954, in Newark, New Jersey. At 36 years old, he played Henry Hill, the volatile mob insider whose rise and collapse drive the story of Goodfellas. His chilling narration and explosive energy turned Henry Hill into the emotional engine of the film. Yet the intensity he brought to the screen echoed strangely in his private life. Liotta married actress and producer Michelle Grace in 1997, and their daughter Carson soon became the center of his world. But the marriage unraveled after 7 years, leaving Liotta raising his child while wrestling with the suffocating shadow of Goodfellas. The industry kept pushing him toward darker roles in films like Copland and later Blow, and the pressure of being forever linked to Henry Hill slowly wore him down. While continuing to work on projects like Shades of Blue and the dark comedy Cocaine Bear, Liotta unknowingly carried a severe cardiovascular condition. Doctors later revealed that advanced atherosclerosis had been narrowing his arteries for years, eventually triggering respiratory failure and heart collapse. Ray Liotta died in his sleep on May 26, 2022, in Santo Domingo while filming Dangerous Waters. He was 67 years old. The autopsy confirmed respiratory failure, pulmonary edema, and heart failure caused by severe arterial disease. At the time of his death, he was engaged to Jussi Nittolo, and in 2023, his daughter accepted a posthumous star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in his honor. The actor who defined one of cinema's greatest gangster films left behind an estimated $14 million fortune and a legacy that still echoes whenever Goodfellas is mentioned. Joe Pesci as Tommy DeVito. Joe Pesci was born on February 9, 1943, in Newark, New Jersey, United States. At 47 years old, he played Tommy DeVito, the explosive, unpredictable gangster whose sudden bursts of violence make him the most terrifying character in Goodfellas. His shocking performance became one of the film's most unforgettable forces and later earned him the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Yet the path to that triumph was brutally uncertain. Pesci had nearly abandoned acting entirely after years of financial struggle, surviving by working as a hairdresser, waiter, and restaurant manager while Hollywood ignored him. Everything changed when Robert De Niro discovered his performance in a small film and personally urged Martin Scorsese to meet him. While Pesci later appeared in films like Casino and Home Alone, his private life was far less stable. He married 3 times, including a turbulent marriage to Claudia Harrow from 1988 to 1992, with whom he had a daughter. Years later, he became engaged to model Angie Everhart, but the engagement collapsed in 2008, adding another failed relationship to a life already marked by volatility. Pesci's fiery reputation extended beyond the screen. Known for a temper as explosive as Tommy DeVito's, stories circulated in Hollywood that he once injured a co-actor during a fight scene after accusing him of performing too fake. Frustrated with fame and constant attention, Pesci stepped away from acting in 1999, choosing music and privacy over Hollywood chaos. As of 2026, Joe Pesci is 83 years old and lives a quiet, almost secretive life away from the film industry. He spends most of his time playing golf, recording music, and avoiding interviews that once surrounded his fame. Despite decades of stepping in and out of Hollywood, he still holds an estimated net worth of about $50 million, proof that even a reluctant legend can leave an enormous legacy. Paul Sorvino, as Paul Cicero. Paul Sorvino was born on April 13, 1939, in Brooklyn, New York, United States. At 51 years old, he played Paul Cicero, the calm but terrifying mafia boss who quietly controls the criminal world in Goodfellas. His restrained authority gave the film one of its most believable and intimidating power figures. Behind that controlled screen presence stood a man fiercely protective of his family. Sorvino married Lorraine Davis in his first marriage, and together they had 3 children, Mira, Michael, and Amanda Sorvino, 2 of whom later became actors. Their marriage eventually ended, and decades later Sorvino found love again with political commentator Dee Benke, whom he married in 2014. But the most explosive moment in his personal life came when he discovered that Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein had allegedly harassed his daughter Mira and damaged her career after she refused him. Sorvino publicly exploded with fury, declaring in interviews that if he had known earlier, Weinstein would be in a wheelchair. The comment shocked Hollywood and revealed the fierce loyalty that defined him as a father. Yet even while playing powerful figures in films like Nixon and Romeo plus Juliet, Sorvino fought a physical struggle most fans never knew about. Since childhood, he had suffered from severe chronic asthma, an illness so intense it once threatened his ability to speak normally. Determined to overcome it, Sorvino trained in opera breathing techniques, pushing his lungs through punishing vocal exercises simply to strengthen his breathing. The discipline allowed him to perform powerful monologues on screen. Paul Sorvino died on July 25, 2022, at the age of 83, at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, after declining health in his later years. He was later laid to rest at the historic Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles. At the time of his passing, the actor who embodied the quiet authority of Paul Cicero had accumulated an estimated net worth of about $10 million. Lorraine Bracco, as Karen Hill. Lorraine Bracco was born on October 2, 1954, in Brooklyn, New York, United States. At 36 years old, she played Karen Hill, the fiercely loyal yet increasingly terrified wife of mobster Henry Hill in Goodfellas. Her intense performance gave the film one of its most powerful emotional perspectives and earned her an Academy Award nomination. But the success of Goodfellas was followed by a devastating personal war. Bracco had a long relationship with actor Harvey Keitel, and the couple shared a daughter, Stella Keitel. When the relationship collapsed, it triggered a brutal 5-year custody battle that drained her finances and shattered her stability. Legal fees reportedly exceeded $2 million, leaving Bracco nearly bankrupt. In the middle of this turmoil, she also ended her marriage to actor Edward James Olmos, whom she had married in 1994. As she appeared in films like Medicine Man and later rebuilt her career on television, the emotional toll of those battles pushed her into severe depression. The psychological aftermath lingered for years. Bracco eventually sought therapy to recover from the emotional damage caused by the custody fight and financial collapse. Ironically, the role that helped rebuild her career came when she portrayed psychiatrist Dr. Jennifer Melfi in the legendary series The Sopranos. While audiences watched her calmly guide Tony Soprano through therapy sessions, Bracco herself had quietly relied on professional help to overcome the darkest period of her life. As of 2026, Lorraine Bracco is 72 years old and continues to work across television, film, and business. She appeared in series like Rizzoli and Isles, voiced characters in projects such as Pinocchio, and even renovated a historic Sicilian home in the documentary My Big Italian Adventure. She also runs Bracco Wines, blending entrepreneurship with her entertainment career. After surviving financial ruin and emotional collapse, she has rebuilt her life and now holds an estimated net worth of about $24 million. Frank Vincent, as Billy Batts. Frank Vincent was born on August 4, 1937, in North Adams, Massachusetts, United States. At 53 years old, he played Billy Batts, the arrogant made man whose brutal death at the hands of Tommy DeVito becomes one of the most shocking scenes in Goodfellas. Even with limited screen time, his performance helped ignite one of the film's most explosive moments. The rivalry audiences saw between Vincent and Joe Pesci in Goodfellas looked terrifyingly real, but the truth behind it surprised many fans. Off-screen, Vincent and Joe Pesci were close friends for more than 4 decades. Long before Hollywood fame, the two struggled together as a comedy duo performing in small nightclubs across New Jersey, barely earning enough to survive. Their friendship continued even as Vincent later appeared alongside Pesci again in films like Casino and the legendary series The Sopranos, where Vincent portrayed ruthless mob boss Phil Liotta. Despite his tough guy reputation on screen, Vincent's final years were overshadowed by serious heart problems. In early September 2017, he suffered a major heart attack, forcing doctors to rush him into emergency treatment. Surgeons attempted to save his life through open-heart surgery, but the procedure turned tragic. His heart could not withstand the stress of the operation, and complications quickly spiraled beyond control. Frank Vincent died on September 13, 2017, at the age of 80, shortly after the surgery in New Jersey. His remains were later cremated, and a funeral service was held days later in Montclair. He was survived by his wife, Catherine Vincent, and their 3 children. Over a career defined by unforgettable gangster roles, Vincent left behind an estimated net worth of about $5 million. Frank Sivero as Frankie Carbone. Frank Sivero was born Francesco Lo Giudice on January 6, 1952, in Siculiana, Sicily, Italy. At 38 years old, he played Frankie Carbone, the quiet but loyal gangster whose brutal fate reflects the paranoia spreading through the mob in Goodfellas. Though not the film's central figure, his character helped deepen the tension inside the crew as loyalty slowly collapsed into betrayal. Sivero had already appeared in another mafia classic, The Godfather Part 2, where he played Genco Abbandando, but Goodfellas cemented his identity as a cinematic mobster. Yet that same identity later became an obsession that haunted his career. In 2014, Sivero shocked Hollywood by filing a $250 million lawsuit against Fox television studios, claiming that the animated character Louie from The Simpsons had copied his appearance and personality from Frankie Carbone. He argued that the writers had known him personally and had based the cartoon character directly on him. The legal battle quickly turned humiliating. In 2015, a judge dismissed the lawsuit, ruling that the cartoon character was simply a parody of various mafia stereotypes. The decision ended Sivero's case and pushed him further away from Hollywood circles. Once a recognizable face in films like The Wedding Singer, he began avoiding interviews and public appearances, leaving many fans wondering what had happened to the intense actor who once stood beside legends like Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci. As of 2026, Frank Sivero is 74 years old and lives a largely private life away from the film industry. Though his acting career slowed dramatically after the legal controversy, his performances in The Godfather Part 2 and Goodfellas remain part of cinema history. Today, the Sicilian-born actor, who once portrayed some of the most memorable mafia characters on screen, holds an estimated net worth of about $1.5 million. Tony Sirico as Tony Stacks. Tony Sirico was born on July 29, 1942 in Brooklyn, New York, United States. At 48 years old, he played Tony Stacks, the slick mob enforcer whose involvement in the Lufthansa heist fuels one of the most brutal turning points in Goodfellas. Even with limited screen time, his street-hardened presence added a chilling authenticity to the film's criminal world. That authenticity came from a past far darker than most actors could imagine. Sirico had lived the life of a real gangster long before stepping onto a movie set. He was arrested 28 times during his youth for crimes including armed robbery and extortion. Violence followed him closely. He was shot twice, once in the leg and once in the face, experiences that left permanent scars. Yet that turbulent life also opened the door to Hollywood. Directors quickly realized that Sirico didn't need to act like a mobster. He had already lived it. Roles in films like Goodfellas eventually led to his most iconic television character, Paulie Walnuts in The Sopranos. However, the final chapter of his life unfolded quietly and painfully. In his later years, Sirico was diagnosed with dementia, a cruel illness that slowly erased the memories of the very career he had fought so hard to build. He spent his last years in an assisted living facility in Florida, surrounded by caretakers as his memory faded. Tony Sirico died on July 8, 2022, at the age of 79 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. His funeral mass was held at the Basilica of Regina Pacis, and he was later buried at Calvary Cemetery in Queens, New York. She left behind an estimated net worth of about $8 million, along with a story that felt almost as unbelievable as the gangster films he helped make legendary. Michael Imperioli as Spider. Michael Imperioli was born on March 26, 1966, in Mount Vernon, New York, United States. At 24 years old, he played Spider, the unlucky young bartender whose shocking confrontation with Tommy DeVito becomes one of the film's most brutal moments in Goodfellas. Though the role was small, the violent scene helped reveal just how unpredictable and dangerous the mob world truly was. The chaos of that scene nearly became real. During filming, shattered glass accidentally sliced deeply into Imperioli's hand while he was acting out the moment where Tommy shoots Spider in the foot. Blood poured from the injury, and when he arrived at the hospital, doctors panicked, believing the young actor had actually been shot in the leg because the makeup effects looked terrifyingly real. Imperioli had to shout repeatedly that the gunshot was fake and that his hand was the real injury. The bizarre incident became a strange Hollywood legend and an early reminder that even small roles in films like Goodfellas could come with real danger. Away from the chaos of film sets, Imperioli built a far more stable life than many of his co-stars. In 1996, he married Victoria Chlebowski, and their marriage became one of the rare, long-lasting relationships in the entertainment industry. In 2008, he embraced Buddhism, a spiritual shift that he said helped him find balance after years in the intense world of crime dramas and Hollywood pressure. As of 2026, Michael Imperioli is 60 years old and continues working as an actor, writer, and musician while living in New York with his family. Decades after the brief but unforgettable role of Spider, Imperioli remains an active creative figure with an estimated net worth of about $20 million. Catherine Scorsese as Tommy's mother. Catherine Scorsese was born on April 16, 1912, in New York City, United States. At 78 years old, She played the warm but unsuspecting mother of Tommy DeVito in Goodfellas. Her calm, humorous dinner scene became one of the film's most unexpectedly memorable moments. What makes the scene even more remarkable is that Catherine Scorsese never read a script at all. She was simply cooking the way she always did for her son, director Martin Scorsese, and the actors gathered around the table. Much of the dialogue was improvised while she prepared real Italian food, treating the cast the same way she treated her own family. The authenticity of that moment turned a simple dinner into one of the most beloved scenes in the entire movie. Catherine had spent most of her life far from Hollywood fame. She had married Luciano Charles Scorsese, a garment worker from Sicily, and raised their children in the crowded apartments of Manhattan's Little Italy. Only later did her son begin casting her in his films, including Italian-American and small roles in several of his productions. Catherine Scorsese died on January 6, 1997, at the age of 84, after suffering complications from Alzheimer's disease. Her passing deeply saddened the filmmakers who had come to see her as a mother figure on set. Though she never sought fame, her unforgettable moment in Goodfellas ensured that Catherine Scorsese would always remain part of cinema history. Mike Starr as Frenchie. Mike Starr was born on July 29, 1950 in Queens, New York City, United States. At 40 years old, he played Frenchie, one of the tough associates moving through the dangerous underworld of Goodfellas. Though not a central character, his imposing presence helped fill the film with the rough street energy that defined Scorsese's mafia world. Starr's towering frame and deep voice quickly made him recognizable in Hollywood, but that same appearance became a strange trap. Directors repeatedly cast him as mobsters, criminals, or intimidating working-class figures. While appearing in films like Uncle Buck and Billy Bathgate, and later the comedy Dumb and Dumber, Starr privately admitted that he often dreamed of playing romantic or softer roles. Hollywood rarely allowed it. His intimidating look kept pushing him back into the same category of characters decade after decade. Away from the spotlight, Starr built a far steadier personal life than many actors around him. He married Joanne Starr in 1975, and their marriage endured through decades of Hollywood uncertainty while they raised 3 children together. Even as he continued appearing in television shows like The Young and the Restless, and films across several genres, he remained one of the industry's most recognizable character actors. As of 2026, Mike Starr is 76 years old and continues to appear occasionally in film and television while living with his family in the United States. Today, the actor, known for his imposing presence, holds an estimated net worth of about $2 million, a testament to a career built on persistence rather than stardom. Paul Herman as the dealer. Paul Herman was born on March 29, 1946 in Brooklyn, New York, United States. At 44 years old, he played the dealer, a shadowy underworld contact tied to the criminal network in Goodfellas. Though his role was brief, his presence added another layer to the film's gritty portrait of organized crime. Off-screen, Herman was deeply embedded in the same New York circles that inspired many of Scorsese's films. He ran the Columbus Cafe in Manhattan with his brother, a strange meeting place where actors, ballet dancers, FBI agents, and even real gangsters crossed paths at the same tables. During those years, he built a strong friendship with Robert De Niro, a relationship that later expanded into business ventures in the restaurant world. While appearing in films like Heat and Sleepers, Herman quietly became known as one of De Niro's trusted partners in hospitality projects that would eventually grow into the famous Tribeca dining scene. His acting career continued steadily for decades, often in crime dramas that reflected the same world he knew so well. Herman appeared in films such as Crazy Heart, American Hustle, and the Scorsese epic The Irishman, while also becoming recognizable to television audiences as Beansy Gaeta in The Sopranos. Yet despite working alongside major stars for years, he remained one of those rare actors who preferred the background, letting his authenticity carry the role rather than chasing fame. Paul Herman died on March 29, 2022, the very day of his 76th birthday. Over a career that spanned more than 4 decades across films, television, and the New York restaurant scene, Herman left behind an estimated net worth of about $3 million and a reputation as one of the most quietly respected figures in the Scorsese circle. Tony Darrow as Sonny Buns. Tony Darrow was born on October 1, 1938, in Brooklyn, New York, United States. At 52 years old, he played Sonny Buns, the loud, aggressive mob associate whose insults spark one of the most violent confrontations in Goodfellas. His short but explosive appearance perfectly captured the dangerous arrogance that often led to deadly consequences in the mafia world. Long before acting, Darrow built his reputation as a lounge singer performing in resorts across New York's Catskills and Pennsylvania's Poconos during the 1970s. That stage experience eventually opened the door to film, where he became known for playing Italian-American gangsters in movies such as Bullets Over Broadway, Mighty Aphrodite, and several collaborations with director Woody Allen. His personal life also saw dramatic turns. He first married Christine Marie Russ in 1992, a marriage that ended in divorce in 2014, and later remarried Marianne Augueri in 2015. However, the most shocking chapter of his life arrived in 2009, when the FBI arrested Darrow over allegations that he had helped arrange the beating of a debtor connected to the Gambino crime family. The accusation stunned fans who knew him mainly as a character actor from films like Goodfellas and Mighty Aphrodite. Facing the possibility of a 10-year prison sentence, Darrow suddenly found himself trapped in a nightmare that looked eerily similar to the gangster stories he had spent decades portraying on screen. In the end, he avoided prison and received probation, but the scandal shattered his reputation and effectively pushed him out of Hollywood's spotlight. As of 2026, Tony Darrow is 88 years old and lives largely outside the public spotlight after the legal controversy that nearly ended his freedom. Once known for fiery roles in films like Goodfellas and Small-Time Crooks, the Brooklyn-born performer now lives quietly with his wife while reflecting on a career that often blurred the line between fiction and the dangerous world his characters represented. More than 3 decades after Goodfellas, 1990, first shocked audiences, the lives of its unforgettable cast have taken paths just as dramatic as the story they told on screen. So, which actor's story surprised you the most from the Goodfellas, 1990, cast then and now? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed revisiting these iconic stars, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more then and now stories from classic movies.